Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting her revenge on Donald Trump. She just gave a speech at the Ron Paul Institute in Texas, speaking before Republicans and libertarians and people who have left the MAGA movement. Marjorie Taylor Greene's message is, MAGA is dead. Donald Trump is panicking as the entire world has decided, let's just ignore him. He's a clown. We have zero respect for him. Take a look at what China is doing, what Ukraine is doing, what Germany is doing, what Iran is doing. No one respects this guy. The world is laughing at him, as he would always say about others. So what we've learned is the following. China has instructed 5 Chinese refineries ignore U.S. sanctions on buying Iranian oil, with China's Ministry of Commerce saying the United States cannot recognize, implement, or comply with the sanctions. Per Reuters, Trump has no clue what he's doing. Just pretend these sanctions don't exist. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers.
On Saturday morning, April 25th, 2026, in a small auditorium in Lake Jackson, Texas, about an hour south of Houston on the Gulf Coast, Marjorie Taylor Greene walked onto a stage at a conference titled War is Back on the Menu, hosted by the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity, and delivered the single most consequential political speech any former Republican has given this year. The former congresswoman from Georgia, the woman who, in her own words during that speech, was a general in the MAGA army, the woman who dedicated her own personal money to electing Donald Trump because she believed he would put America first, the woman who stood by him through 2 impeachments, through January 6th, through every single attack the political establishment threw at him for 6 straight years, looked into a room full of conservatives, libertarians, and ex-MAGA dissidents, and said the words that nobody on that side of the political coalition had been brave enough to say out loud in public yet. According to direct quotes captured by Brad Hoff on social media at the conference, sourced through the verified Zero Hedge archive, Greene told Ron Paul, sitting in the audience, that he was right about all the wars and that MAGA is dead. Then she spent the rest of her speech explaining exactly how it died, exactly who killed it, and exactly what Donald Trump did to her and her family when she refused to go along with the funeral. Then, at the close of her speech, she addressed the millions of Americans still trapped inside what she now openly calls a cult. Direct quote sourced through reporting from Natural News, Zero Hedge, the Ron Paul Institute's own publication, and antiwar.com. Greene urged her former movement to, and these are the words she used herself, open your eyes and leave the cult.
And Donald Trump, the founder of MAGA, has killed the MAGA movement. Marjorie Taylor Greene has also been making social media posts to others who still may be trapped in the MAGA base to get out of the cult. And she's posting the signs that you're probably in a cult, and here's how to get out of the cult. I want to show you what went down as Marjorie Taylor Greene got a standing ovation in front of Republicans and libertarians in Texas, declaring MAGA is dead and that Donald Trump killed it. Let me show you what went down in this speech. Here's where Marjorie Taylor Greene declares in front of a packed house of Republicans and libertarians that MAGA has died. Here, play this clip.
Because this crosses party lines. It crosses, as a matter of fact, it crosses all the lines. When it comes down to victimizing some of the most innocent people in America, these were young girls that were teenagers that desperately wanted to be models one day. They wanted to be seen as beautiful. They wanted to be rich. They wanted to be famous. And of course, every teenager wants things like that. And they were victimized by Ghislaine Maxwell and others. And they were victimized by the richest, most powerful men, not only in our country, but in the world. And they were used by Jeffrey Epstein as sexual tools for his own satisfaction and his friends' satisfaction. To actually be asked by the President of the United States to back off and not help these women, that's when MAGA died. That's when the entire thing shattered for me.
Similarly, with respect to this impenetrable, impregnable naval blockade that the U.S. has, well, an National Iranian tanker company, VLCC, one of these very large cargo ships, one of these massive super tankers carrying 1.9 million barrels of crude oil worth nearly $220 million, just easily evaded the U.S. Navy blockade and reached the Far East per tanker trackers, with China as its final destination. The tanker Huge, they're mocking Donald Trump by calling it Huge, went AIS dark on March 20th en route to Iran, loaded Iranian crude during the U.S. blockade. It was sighted off Sri Lanka last week and is now traveling and traversing Indonesia's strait. And this was one of the ships that the Trump regime said, we got more lies from the Trump regime. You have Zelensky saying there's no even need to work with Donald Trump or even try to get on his good side. It doesn't matter. Zelensky preparing for a future with less or no United States. And in response to Donald Trump saying that the U.S. is now withdrawing 5,000 troops from our Air Force base in Germany, Germany's defense minister, Boris Pistorius, and Germany's chancellor, Friedrich Merz, are like, we don't care. To remove the troops, we don't care. We are building up a European army right now, and we really don't care what the hell you do. In fact, even trying to work with you at this point in any way is really just a liability. So watch your failing golf tournament at Doral, Donald Trump. Use Air Force One to travel from Palm Beach to head over, an hour and 20-minute drive, but go by Air Force One on the U.S. taxpayer dime to watch nobody show up at your Doral golf tournament, the PGA tournament, after all, for real. He took Air Force One from Palm Beach to Doral. It's like a 10-minute flight, like a 5-minute flight. It's like an hour drive, hour and 10-minute drive. Absolutely ridiculous. Here's Donald Trump on the tarmac as he was taking Air Force One from Palm Beach to Doral, again, at most an hour and 20-minute drive. He's taking a plane and he's like, look, Iran, they're giving me some concepts of deals. I got some deal concepts. And as our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, posted in order to mock all these reporter stenographers for Donald Trump, these propagandists like Barack Ravid and others at Axios who use those sirens, like, breaking news, Donald Trump told me another lie today. Major breaking, Donald Trump announces a concept of a deal with Iran. Here, play this clip.
Again, they want to make a deal. They're decimated. They're having a hard time figuring out who their leader is. They don't know who their leader is because their leader is gone. Their former leader, Khomeini. But we'll see. Any questions real fast? The which?
Have you looked at the proposal that Iran is?
No, I haven't. I'm looking at it up here.
You're looking at it?
Yeah, I'll let you know about it later. But
Last night you said we might be better off not making a deal with Iran.
well, I wouldn't have to. I didn't say that. I said that if we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. But we're not leaving right now. We're going to do it so nobody has to go back in 2 years or 5 years.
Mr. President, you also said last night that
They told me about the concept of the deal. They're going to give me the exact wording now. Yeah.
She shared social media posts with her audience offering guidance on how to recognize when you are inside a cult. And then she walked off that stage having said, in plain English, what every former MAGA believer in America had been quietly thinking for months. The thing they thought was a movement turned out to be a cult. And the cult leader, Donald Trump, told her, when her own son was receiving credible death threats because of the language Trump himself was using to attack her, that she deserved it. This is the moment we are in right now, in the first week of May 2026, and every single piece of it is happening simultaneously. While Marjorie Taylor Greene is on stage in Texas calling MAGA dead, Spirit Airlines is collapsing in Florida. According to The Washington Post, NPR, ABC News, CNN, Fox Business, and Reuters, all reporting from yesterday, May 2nd, 2026, Spirit Airlines, the budget American carrier that employed 14,000 people and served millions of working-class travelers across the country, ceased operations effective immediately at 3 a.m. Saturday morning after Donald Trump's $500 million federal bailout deal failed to materialize. Spirit's final flight, Flight 1833, landed in Dallas just after midnight. According to ABC News, the majority of Spirit's 14,000 employees found out about the closure primarily through media reports that they were about to lose their jobs. The airline collapsed because of skyrocketing jet fuel prices caused by Trump's Iran war. The same Iran war Marjorie Taylor Greene was in Texas that very same weekend, telling Ron Paul was a betrayal of everything MAGA was supposed to stand for. The same Iran war Trump's CENTCOM commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, was briefing him on as failing. The same Iran war Bill Maher declared lost on HBO. The same Iran war that has driven inflation to 3.5% and gas prices to the highest single-month spike since 1967. Trump's signature foreign policy is now killing American jobs in the same week Trump's loudest former Republican defender is calling his entire political movement a cult. And listen, before I go any further, I need to talk to you directly, because what is happening right now in this country is the single most serious threat to independent journalism in our lifetimes. While MTG was warning her former audience that they had been recruited into a cult, while Spirit Airlines was laying off 14,000 American workers, while the Iran war continues into its 65th day, while Trump's approval ratings hit 34% in Pew Research's latest poll, the FCC, chaired by Trump-appointed Brendan Carr, ordered Disney into an emergency early renewal of all 8 ABC broadcast television station licenses last week, 6 years before those licenses were due. According to Senator Elizabeth Warren, direct quote sourced through NPR, the FCC has just pulled out a sword to hang over every single news organization in America. That is the goal. That is the strategy. They are using federal communications regulation as a personal vengeance tool. They want to silence Jimmy Kimmel. They want to crush late-night television, which they already did to Stephen Colbert, whose late show ends May 21st. They want to bankrupt the corporate networks that air critical content, the way they bankrupted Spirit Airlines through the Iran war. And then they want to come for the next layer down, the independent voices, the YouTubers, the Substack writers, the channels exactly like ours. They are trying to pass new regulations that would limit what news organizations can say about the President of the United States. They are trying to demonetize independent journalists on YouTube and Facebook and X. They are trying to channel news monopoly back into the hand-picked corporate networks the administration trusts. And the only thing that protects independent journalism from that pressure is direct viewer support. Member-funded journalism, subscription-funded journalism. Channels exactly like ours that answer to you, not to a corporate parent that the FCC can pressure. So I am asking you, right now, please, if you believe in this work, if you have $9 a month, hit the membership button below. $9. $9 is what stands between us and silence. $9 is what makes it possible for me to sit down and connect every dot the corporate networks will not connect. And if you cannot do $9 a month, please share this video with one person. One single share. That is how the algorithm works. That is how independent journalism survives. Now let me bring you the full story. Let me start with the Ron Paul Institute conference because the venue matters as much as the content. Ron Paul is a former Texas congressman, 3-time presidential candidate, once as a libertarian in 1988, then as a Republican in 2008 and 2012, and the godfather of the modern American non-interventionist conservative movement.
Then Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about how when the Epstein files became a major issue in Congress, she expected that Donald Trump was going to be her biggest supporter, that Donald Trump would actually be the one to wheel out the files, because she said we were told that this was a Bill Clinton thing and a Hillary Clinton thing by Donald Trump. Then it became very clear that Donald Trump was complicit, that the Trump regime, that Pam Bondi and Howard Lutnick and J.D. Vance and all of these individuals were actually the Epstein class, and they were in the files. They were protecting themselves and their friends. Watch what Marjorie Taylor Greene says here. Play this clip.
So, wow. When we started talking about releasing the Epstein files, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. President Trump will just roll them out on a big cart himself. Stacks and stacks and stacks of the Epstein files, because obviously Bill Clinton is all in there and Hillary Clinton. That's what I had been told all along, right? Well, it was the most shocking thing when I sat in a conference meeting and I learned that the president didn't want to release the Epstein files. I was like, what? Yeah, come to find out, he was very much against it. So we kept on trying and kept on talking about it. And then the president told Mike Johnson, no, do not bring that resolution to the floor for a vote. He told the Rules Committee, and Johnson told the Rules Committee, no, you will not mark up any bill in the Rules Committee that will allow the Epstein files to be released. And the resistance built and built and built. He told Pam Bondi, don't release the Epstein files. He told everybody, don't release the Epstein files. So we persisted. Because that's what we promised. That's what we campaigned on, transparency and accountability, especially to pedophiles. How is that complicated? So it got to be such a gigantic amount of resistance coming from the president and the speaker and everyone, the DOJ. I said, fine, I'll do the unthinkable. I'll go over there and I'll sign my name on a discharge petition that all the Democrats are signing their name on. Talk about crossing the aisle. Me, a general in the MAGA army, crossing over to sign my name with a bunch of Democrats. Yeah, I did. Because women were raped when they were 16 and 14 years old. And he was a convicted pedophile, and we knew there were many with him. So I signed my name on the discharge petition. Oh, did I get my name on the naughty list then? Let me tell you. That became a real issue at the White House.
Right. I mean, pretty stunning. I mean, she's speaking in front of a Republican and libertarian crowd who all agree with this right now, that MAGA is dead and that Donald Trump is absolutely complicit in covering up the Epstein files, and so is Bondi and Kash Patel and this entire despicable regime. Here, Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about when Donald Trump gave her a phone call and started to threaten her and say, hey, Marjorie, you signed that discharge petition. You better take your name off because you're going to hurt my friends. You're hurting the type of people who we hang out with at Mar-a-Lago. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, what are you talking about? The people in the Epstein files who are the pedos? You're saying that that's the Mar-a-Lago buds of yours who you want me to? I don't want to protect those people. Watch as Marjorie Taylor Greene gets a standing ovation here again in front of this crowd that doesn't have Democrats in it. Here, play this clip.
Well, I'll never forget it. I was in my office in the Rayburn building, and I got a phone call from the president. And he was at the White House, and he wanted to talk to me about the discharge petition that I'd signed my name on. And he said, Marjorie, you're going to have to take your name off that discharge petition. We can't let, this is a hoax. We can't carry this. This is a hoax. It's a Democrat hoax. And we've got to just put this away and stop doing this. And he said, my friends are going to get hurt. He said his friends would get hurt if we released the Epstein files. He said, Marjorie, these are good people. These are people you know at Mar-a-Lago. People in Palm Beach, they're going to get hurt by this. And I said, Mr. President, people have been hurt. These women have been hurt. I said, have you talked to them? I said, you should talk to them. You should have them in the Oval Office, Mr. President. You have everybody in the Oval Office. You have sports teams. You have world leaders. You have al-Qaeda terrorists that are now leading Syria. You have Mamdani. I mean, you have everybody in the Oval Office. Surely you can have these women who were raped as teenagers. Talk to them. I talk to them all the time. As a matter of fact, many of them voted for you. That's what I told them. They voted for you. Epstein victims voted for Donald Trump. And he wouldn't have anything to do with them. And he told me his friends would get hurt. And I said, not taking my name off the discharge petition. Thank you.
Then Donald Trump is asked by reporters, so in your letter to Congress saying that you don't have to follow the War Powers Act, you're claiming that hostilities with Iran are over? There's still a blockade. How are they over? And Donald Trump goes, oh, it's a very friendly blockade. A very friendly blockade? Like, we all realize that this guy's a psychopath. Here's what, and why he's being ignored by everybody in the world. Here, play this clip.
It's a possibility that could happen, certainly.
Mr. President, in your letter to Congress, you said the hostilities in Iran started have been terminated. How can you say that given that the naval blockade is still being militarized?
Well, it's a very friendly blockade. Nobody's even challenging it. Nobody at all is challenging it. Just so you understand, many presidents have been involved in things that are very big. They never had to go through anything with respect to Congress. They considered it to be totally unconstitutional. And the Democrats in Congress that push this, and probably a couple of Republicans, they're hurting our negotiating ability, which is infinite right now. And they shouldn't be doing it. It's never happened before. No other president's done it. And I'm not going to be the first. Thank you very much.
And then a reporter goes, so why is the U.S. removing troops from Germany, Donald? What are we doing? And Donald Trump's like, I've got more than 5,000 that we're removing. 5,000's just the start. We get it, Donald. You spoke with Putin at the end of last week for 90 minutes. You didn't share that with the American people. TASS, T-A-S-S, Putin's propaganda media shared the call where Putin and you were chatting it up, attacking NATO, talking about economic cooperation between the United States and Russia. We get it, Donald. You're a traitor, in my opinion. We get it, okay? You're someone who's covers up the Epstein files. You're disgusting. Here, play this clip right here.
A lot of oil. A lot of oil.
Why is the U.S. removing troops from Germany?
We're going to cut way down, and we're cutting a lot further than 5,000. Thank you very much.
And by the way, so utterly pathetic. I mean, my heart goes out to all of these Spirit Airlines employees who are now out of a job. 17,000 Spirit Airline employees lost their jobs. 7,500 lost their jobs just basically overnight. Donald Trump said that he was putting together a bailout package, but the same way Trump bankrupted all of his businesses in the past, Donald Trump was unable to stop this bankruptcy as well. And then like everybody in the Trump regime is like blaming Biden from 2024. Dude, you're in charge. You said we're in a golden age and everything is great and everyone's so rich. You're the low cost guy that you're bringing down prices on day one. Spirit Airlines went bankrupt because of the fact that this catastrophic war in Iran has caused jet fuel prices to double. It's like $4.90 a gallon, right? More $5 a gallon for jet fuel. That's why. That's what they said in their release when they talked about their bankruptcy. But now you have these Trump sycophants like former Governor Sununu, this MAGA Republican loser guy, and he's going on all this media. He's like, Donald Trump deserves to be applauded for the bankruptcy. He tried really hard. He tried really hard. We're congratulating Donald Trump for failing now. That's MAGA, a bunch of damn grifters and damn losers. Here, play this clip.
Hats off to the president. I mean, President Trump really tried 100 different ways to make this work because he cared about those customers. He cared about those employees. At the end of the day, Spirit was a financial disaster. I mean, they effectively were massively over-leveraged. They didn't even own their own planes. Like there was really very little collateral behind anything they had. So unfortunately, I think a lot of us saw that this was just not going to work financially at all.
And by the way, not only China, Ukraine, Iran, and no one takes Trump seriously. Even Raiders rookie quarterback Fernando Mendoza. I ain't visiting the White House. I'm a rookie. I'm going to practice with my team because the Indiana Hoosiers, because they won the national championship, they're going to the White House. And Mendoza's like, yeah, I ain't going there because Trump has totally lost the culture. I mean, look at this loser. Look what he's posting all night. It's post after post. I'm not even going to read some of these. His post is like, so ironic that crying Chuck Schumer and Democrats are hiring sleazeballs like Barack Hussein Obama's crooked former Attorney General Eric Holder. What are you talking about, you loser?
His Institute for Peace and Prosperity has been hosting conferences for years, arguing that the United States military-industrial complex, the foreign wars, the national security state, the central banking system, that all of these things are betrayals of the original American conservative promise of limited government and personal liberty. Ron Paul has been making these arguments since the 1970s. He is 90 years old. He has watched with sustained sadness as his Republican Party became the party of George W. Bush's Iraq War, then became the party of Donald Trump, who promised to end forever wars, and then started two First, the June 2025 strikes on Iran, then the much larger February 28, 2026 war that the Pentagon now calls Operation Epic Fury. The Ron Paul Institute conference in Lake Jackson, Texas, on April 25th was titled War is Back on the Menu. That was the official name. According to reporting from Dome Politics, Natural News, and the Institute's own published account, the conference's main argument was that Trump's decision to launch military action against Iran was a complete betrayal of the America First conservative tradition. And to make that case, the Institute brought in two of the most consequential MAGA defectors of the last 6 months. Joe Kent, the former director of counterterrorism at the Office of National Intelligence, who resigned over the Iran war, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Greene's account of her break with Trump, delivered at that conference, is now the most authoritative public account of how the MAGA movement turned on its own. According to Ron Paul's own published recap on the Institute website, sourced through antiwar.com, Zero Hedge, and Natural News, Greene described herself, in her own words, as a general in the MAGA army. She said she dedicated her life and her own personal money to electing Donald Trump because she believed he would put America first. And then she watched that cause betrayed. Direct quote sourced through Ron Paul's recap. Greene said the betrayal happened first with Trump's support for what Paul called tyrannical central bank digital currency, and then with Trump's refusal to release the Epstein files. She said that after Trump dubbed her a traitor for disagreeing with him on these issues, constant death threats forced her to resign her seat in the House. She did not have to resign. She could have, in Paul's words, gone along to get along, as most do in Congress. Instead, she stood up for what was right. And the cost of that decision, according to her own testimony, was that the President of the United States, when she texted him about credible death threats against her own son, told her she deserved it. I want you to sit with that for a second. Because this is not just a former Republican congresswoman complaining about a personal feud. This is the testimony of a woman who, 18 months ago, was the loudest, fiercest, most loyal defender of Donald Trump in the entire House of Representatives. She wore MAGA hats on the floor. She defended him through both impeachments. She campaigned for him relentlessly. She gave him political cover when almost no other House Republican would. And in April 2026, sitting in front of Ron Paul, in front of an audience of conservatives and libertarians, she said the President of the United States, the man she spent 6 years defending, when her own son's life was being threatened because of the political rhetoric Trump himself was using, told her she deserved it. That is the testimony. That is the on-the-record account. And the implications of that testimony, and for what the MAGA movement actually is, for what Trump's relationship to his own loyalists actually looks like, for what the country has elected to put back in the White House, are absolutely shattering. Drop a comment below if this is hitting for you. One word: vindicated, brave, concerning, whatever you feel. Every single comment helps the algorithm push this video further. And remember, please, if you can, hit subscribe, smash like, and join our $9 membership. That is what keeps us telling you the truth when the corporate networks will not. Now stay with me because the central bank digital currency angle is one of the most important pieces of MTG's testimony, and almost no one in the political press has covered it. Let me explain. According to MTG's own remarks and the Ron Paul Institute's recap, one of the foundational MAGA promises of the 2024 campaign, a promise Trump made repeatedly to his base, was that he would oppose central bank digital currency, CBDC, the proposed digital dollar controlled by the Federal Reserve that conservative voters across the spectrum view as one of the most serious potential threats to financial privacy in American history. Trump promised that he would never support a CBDC. He attacked the Biden administration for even considering it. The conservative grassroots heard him. They voted for him in part because of that promise. And then, according to MTG's testimony at the Ron Paul Institute, once in office, Trump reversed himself. He began supporting financial infrastructure that, in MTG's own description, moved the American economy in the direction of central bank digital currency anyway. The promise had been a tool to win the election. The reversal was the reality of governing, and for MTG, watching that betrayal, combined with the Epstein files cover-up, combined with the Iran war that contradicted every "no more forever wars" promise Trump had made, was the moment she understood that what she had thought was a movement built on values had become something else entirely. Then there is the Epstein files. According to MTG's testimony at the Ron Paul Institute conference, sourced through the documented Ron Paul Institute publication, Natural News, Zero Hedge, and antiwar.com, and consistent with the New York Times profile of Greene that The Hill cited last fall, where Trump told her on a phone call that "my friends will get hurt if the Epstein files came out." Greene said the Trump administration actively pressured her to remove her name from the discharge petition that would have forced the files into public release. She refused. She said the pressure came directly from Trump and his inner circle. And when she would not back down, the President of the United States branded her, direct quote sourced through her own social media account, Marjorie Traitor Greene.
And then Marjorie Taylor Greene in this speech says, look, I'm not just like any MAGA person. She goes, I was like the lead MAGA general. She goes, I'd be the person who would go around with Donald Trump talking about all of these policies. I was the person. Here, play this clip.
When you talk about someone that fought on the front lines of MAGA, I wasn't just a fighter. I was a general. I spoke all over the country for President Trump. I stood on rally stage after rally stage. As a matter of fact, I spoke at Lindsey Graham's home county. I spoke just before Lindsey Graham.
Then she talks about how there's this whole industry that developed around Donald Trump, this MAGA cottage industry of grifters who follow Trump around and sell the Trump Bibles and the Trump shirts. And then she goes, you know who killed, though, all of that? Donald Trump. He's the one who killed it. Here, play this clip.
Make America Great Again was such a dream for so many Americans, and it was sold for years and years, and an industry was created around it, an entire political industry and an economic. It's an entire economy. At rallies, there's companies that sell T-shirts and hats. These little businesses, these small business owners follow Donald Trump all over the country and sell their goods to all the MAGA faithful that go to the rallies. There's also companies online that sell all types of Trump gear, MAGA, you name it, coffee mugs, hats, T-shirts, pajamas. I mean, maybe some of you in this room have some of that stuff. You've probably thrown it out by now if you did, but it was available to buy in every way. There's Trump Bibles, there's Trump watches. I don't know, there's Trump everything. But think about that, an entire industry created on MAGA. But I watched it die because when you're a member of Congress, we have a unique view that the American people don't have. It's like riding a roller coaster. You know, when you ride a roller coaster and if you're in the front car, you are strapped in and you have the front row seat of everything that's coming on the roller coaster ride. When you're climbing up the hill and you're climbing slowly up the hill, you can see when you're getting to the top, but the people behind you, they can't see it yet. Well, that's how I felt being a member of Congress, being such an integral piece of MAGA, being personal friends with the president, personal friends with the administration, and personal friends with all of the people that got us there. So as a member of Congress, I had a front row view of the bills and the president's support of the bills and the policies that actually destroyed MAGA.
Or Donald Trump posting, just even look at this message. Just look at what it physically looks like. Like if anybody sent you a text message, you'd be like, yo, this person is clinical. Donald Trump goes, I hate seeing Fox and other conservative outlets constantly making low-rated Bill Maher relevant as it pertains to the Republican Party and beyond. Bill Maher is weak and ineffective, who I got to know very well during my dinner with him at the White House. He was nervous, scared, and the first words he uttered as he entered the Oval Office, can I have a drink? And then Donald Trump posts the following. I will soon be reviewing the plan that Iran has just sent to us, but can't imagine that it would be acceptable and that they have not yet paid a big enough price for what they have done to humanity and the world over the last 47 years. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And by the way, the new proposal Trump said he received from Iran in that social media post, which he would soon be reviewing. Yep, it's the same exact proposal his administration already rejected on Friday, yet he treats it like a new one and says, can't imagine that it would be acceptable, the Hormuz letter explains. Foreign Minister Araghchi, Iran's foreign minister, explains that Iran's proposal from Friday demands withdrawal of all U.S. forces from Iran's surroundings, lifting the naval blockade with a new Hormuz mechanism, lifting sanctions, releasing Iran's frozen assets, and paying compensation. But Donald Trump says to Barack Ravid, his stenographer, his propagandist, We may strike Iran if they misbehave, according to two sources, Barak Ravid says. Two sources briefed on Iran's proposal. It sets a 1-month deadline for negotiations on a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, end the U.S. blockade, and permanently end the war in Iran. This Barak Ravid guy's too much. Can't wait to see what he posts today, right before the markets open on Monday. You can be sure it involves market manipulation, in my opinion. Then you had Donald Trump on the tarmac also saying that Trump claims he never said that he might be better off not making a deal with Iran. I never said that. I didn't say that. You said it on Friday. Here, play this clip.
We'll see. Any questions real fast? The which?
Have you looked at the proposal that Iran is?
No, I haven't. I'm looking at it up here. Yeah, I'll let you know about it later. But
President, last night you said we might be better off not making a deal with Iran.
well, I wouldn't have to. I didn't say that. I said that if we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. But we're not leaving right now. We're going to do it so nobody has to go back in 2 years or 5 years.
Mr. President, you also said last night.
And here's Donald Trump saying it on Friday, so you can hear for yourself. Let's play it.
You know, so you'll be all very happy. And, you know, it's right now I own Doral, and right now we have a tournament. I'm so busy. And we have the big Cadillac Championship going on, all the great players, the PGA Tour. And they're there. And yesterday somebody came up, said, "Sir, the tournament is great." I said, "What tournament are you talking about?" "I'm so busy with the Iranians calling, trying to make a good deal, and we're not going to let that happen. But they've got to make a bad deal. But if they make a deal at all, because frankly, maybe we're better off not making a deal at all. Do you want to know the truth? Because we can't let this thing go on. Been going on too long, but under the leadership of..."
And then finally, one of Donald Trump's buddies, a top MAGA influencer, Craig Long, arrested yesterday in human trafficking and prostitution sting in Florida, along with Ryan Yates, a Trump supporter who pled guilty in February 2024 for his involvement in January 6th. Long posted this photo with Donald Trump and Don Jr. just a few weeks ago at a UFC fight. Look at this crew, the Epstein crew, the Epstein class. Play this clip.
Then there's Craig Long we arrested. He's 41. Some of you may recognize him. He's an influencer. Well, I'm going to give him some content for his social media today. He was a previous felon who straightened up. Really what we want to see in life. Now he's an influencer. You know, he moves in big circles, even with the president. This is a photograph with the president and his son not long ago. Now, we'd like to see people who make mistakes early in life, and he had a long history, straighten up. We like the fact that he likes the cops. Heck, he liked them so much, he got caught up in a sting and got to be up and real close with the cops. We asked what his attitude was. He said, oh, he had a great attitude. He appreciates law enforcement. Well, there you go. Got arrested in the human trafficking sting. Influence that for a while.
He pulled his endorsement. He told reporters on Truth Social that something happened to her over the last period of a month or two where she changed politically. He launched a sustained personal campaign against a sitting member of his own party for the offense of trying to make federal records about a convicted child sex trafficker available to the American public. And the death threats followed. Threats against her 22-year-old son Derek. Threats that quoted Trump's own language, calling her a traitor. According to her interview with Piers Morgan in mid-April, Greene forwarded the threats to FBI Director Kash Patel, to Vice President J.D. Vance, to Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, to James Blair, and finally to Donald Trump himself. And his response, direct quote captured on camera by Piers Morgan, reported across HuffPost, Newsweek, Mediaite, The Hill, and The Daily Caller, was, in Greene's words, that Trump had no compassion for death threats on my children. He blamed me basically that if my son were to get killed, it would be my fault. That is the President of the United States, about a member of his own party, about the safety of her own child. And that is why MTG on April 25th in Lake Jackson, Texas, told an auditorium full of disillusioned former MAGA believers, direct quote sourced through Natural News and Zero Hedge, to open your eyes and leave the cult. She shared with them in real time social media posts offering guidance on how to recognize when you are inside a cult. She did this because she lived it. She did this because she watched what happens to people who try to leave. She did this because every single person in that room had heard rumors about other former MAGA loyalists being threatened, sued, doxxed, and intimidated for the offense of telling the truth about the man at the top of their movement. And she stood there as proof of concept. The most loyal congresswoman in the MAGA House of Representatives, forced out, threatened, her son threatened, told by the President of the United States that she deserved it. On record, on camera, to Piers Morgan, to Ron Paul, to the country. I want to take a quick break here, because if you are still with me, you understand exactly why this work matters. Subscribe to America Facticity if you have not. Hit the bell. Join our $9 membership. That is what keeps independent journalism alive at exactly the moment when independent journalism is under attack. Now let me bring you the rest of the story, because what is happening this week in the broader American political landscape is exactly what MTG was warning about. Saturday, May 2nd, 2026, 3 a.m. Eastern Time. Spirit Airlines ceases operations. According to the official Spirit Airlines press release captured by NPR, ABC News, The Washington Post, CNN, and Fox Business, the airline said it had no choice but to begin this wind down. Direct quote sourced through Fox Business. It is with great disappointment that on May 2nd, 2026, Spirit Airlines started an orderly wind down of our operations, effective immediately. To our guests, all flights have been canceled and customer service is no longer available. All 277 flights scheduled for Saturday were canceled. 14,000 employees lost their jobs. The carrier had been negotiating with the Trump administration for weeks on a $500 million federal bailout in exchange for warrants giving the federal government 90% ownership of the airline. According to CNN's reporting from yesterday, sourced through 6 administration sources, on Thursday, the White House gave Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick the green light to call Spirit CEO Dave Davis and tell him no government bailout was coming. Lutnick called Davis Thursday evening. They left open what one source called the possibility of a Hail Mary, but there was a determination that Spirit had to start putting things in motion to wind itself down. By Friday, the deal was dead. By 3 a.m. Saturday, Spirit was finished. The political symbolism of this collapse is staggering. Spirit Airlines was killed by Trump's Iran war. The doubling of jet fuel prices caused by the war crushed the budget carrier's already thin margins. Spirit was already in its second bankruptcy in less than 2 years before the Iran war started. The fuel cost spike was the killing blow. Then Trump publicly suggested he would save the airline. He called the workers. He told reporters on Friday, direct quote sourced through Fox Business, "If we can help them, we will. But we have to come first. We're first. If we could do it, we'd do it, but only if it's a good deal. We have to come first." The President of the United States told 14,000 American workers that he would help them only if it was a good deal for him. By Saturday morning, Spirit was gone, and the response from Trump's own Republican coalition has been absolute betrayal. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, before the deal collapsed, called the proposed Spirit bailout, direct quote sourced through Time magazine, an absolutely terrible idea. He compared it to TARP, the 2008 bank bailout. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas opposed it. Senator Ted Budd of North Carolina opposed it. Even Trump's own Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy publicly opposed it. According to Duffy's quote to ABC News yesterday, sourced through Reuters via NBC News, "If no one else wants to buy them, why would we buy them?" And Marjorie Taylor Greene called it, direct quote sourced through Time, "not what America voted for." Investor Kevin O'Leary called it terrible on national television. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby said the crisis was not anywhere near big enough to justify bailing out a single airline. The Trump administration's signature post-Iran war economic intervention failed because Trump's own party would not back it. Then 14,000 American workers lost their jobs. And Trump went on to other priorities. The Iran war that started this entire chain reaction is now in its 65th day. According to the Pew Research Center's national survey of 5,103 American adults conducted between April 20th and 26, Trump's approval rating is now at 34%, the lowest of his second term. The Leader poll from the same period found Trump at 36% approval, 53% disapproval, a net rating of -17. The Big Data poll found Trump at 39.6% approval. According to Big Data poll director Rich Barris, direct quote sourced through Newsweek, voters have clearly run out of patience with the administration and his party. Every single 2024 swing state, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin now has Trump's disapproval rating higher than his approval rating. Even reliably, red Alaska and Iowa have flipped, and the Pew survey, according to Newsweek, found that fewer Americans described him as mentally sharp. That last line connects directly to what MTG has been saying for weeks. According to her on-camera interview with Wolf Blitzer on CNN on April 9th, direct quote sourced through Newsweek, Greene said, "It's absolute madness. How can any person that is mentally stable call for an entire civilization of people to be murdered, to be wiped out, to never come back again? That's what the president called for. That shows there's serious instability in his thinking." Then on Christiane Amanpour the same week, Greene answered Amanpour's direct question about whether she supported the 25th Amendment with, direct quote sourced through the Gateway Pundit's transcript, "Yes, I really think that his mental capacity needs to be examined." On her X account on April 7th, Greene posted, direct quote, "25th Amendment. Not a single bomb has dropped on America. We cannot kill an entire civilization. This is evil and madness." Read those quotes again. From the President of the United States' former most loyal Republican Congresswoman, calling for the 25th Amendment on every major news platform in April 2026. And every single thing she has been warning about, Trump's Iran war, the cognitive concerns, the cult-like loyalty demands, the cover-up of the Epstein files, the punishment of dissent, has been independently confirmed by every other independent voice we have covered on this channel. Mary Trump describing her uncle's apparent dementia signs. Robert De Niro at the No Kings rallies calling Trump's allies the Epstein class buddies. Whoopi Goldberg telling the country it's not your building about the East Wing demolition. Bill Maher on HBO declaring the Iran war lost. Wab Kinew from Manitoba accusing Trump of suppressing the Epstein files because his name appears in them too often. David French in the New York Times declaring Volodymyr Zelensky the new leader of the free world. J.B. Pritzker calling Trump a man who's suffering dementia. Dr. Vin Gupta naming early Alzheimer's or frontotemporal dementia as possibilities. Trump's own former lawyer Ty Cobb saying his Truth Social posts show the absence of any frontal lobe controls. Tucker Carlson apologizing on his own podcast for helping elect Trump. Jamie Raskin's official April 10th letter demanding a comprehensive cognitive assessment. All of these voices telling the same story in the same months with the same evidence. And in the middle of all of it stands MTG, the former general in the MAGA army, telling Ron Paul and his audience that the cult she helped build is now devouring its own believers, and that Donald Trump told her, when her son's life was being threatened, that she deserved it.
And then she goes on and says it again. Trump was the one who destroyed you. Trump killed it. Play this clip.
You see, MAGA went from being words and promises, but when it came time to put it into real action, the actions is what killed it. And do you want to know who took the actions to kill MAGA? It was the creator and the founder himself, Donald Trump. How did it happen? It started with the back door to a central bank digital currency. And then when we campaigned on lowering inflation and reducing gas prices and caring about domestic issues that matter to Americans, the White House front door became a revolving door to foreign leaders, not to Americans, and not to industry leaders and those involved in working on the domestic solutions that Americans needed. No, it became a place of foreign policy. The next thing that happened was bombing Iran. I openly and spoke publicly against it. And that's when strike two happened for me. The president was mad at me. How dare I criticize him? After all, he wants the Nobel Peace Prize, and he wants it by bombing Iran. How can I point out that hypocrisy, Marjorie? No. Don't criticize the president. Don't be a panikin. Trust Trump, right? Well, I spoke out, but there were others that spoke out. Charlie Kirk spoke out, and he spoke out quite bravely. Tucker Carlson spoke out bravely, and others, few others, not many of us, but a few. Well, then the 12-day war was finished, and they got to come out and do their victory rounds on Fox News and say how, oh, see, it didn't turn into a forever war. Oh, look, We bombed them and we wiped out their entire nuclear capabilities. We wiped out all their military capabilities. It's over. And that's why Donald Trump should have the Nobel Peace Prize. My goodness, it was so silly. Well, as this was going on, I was watching spending bill and CR and all this disgusting things that happen in the House of Representatives. No real change. In Congress, I would co-sponsor the balanced budget resolution, and I would co-sponsor all the conservative bills. Then magically, guess what? No matter who is Speaker of the House, those bills never come to the floor for a vote. Well, talking about another resolution that got blocked more than any other resolution I've ever seen, it was to release the Epstein files.
And then she talked about how because Donald Trump said that she was disloyal to him, even though she said, I think I'm being loyal to the country and I'm being loyal to victims of child rape, victims of a child sex trafficking ring, but because me being loyal and protecting people who are victims of child rape, that now makes me not loyal to you. So therefore, I'm a traitor. And then Donald Trump would call her Marjorie traitor, Marjorie traitor. And then she would get all of these death threats and her kids would get these death threats. And then she said, so I went to Donald and I said, hey, can you tone it down? My son's getting death threats. And she goes, Donald Trump told me, yeah, I know. He deserves it. He deserves it. So folks, if there are any Republicans, libertarians, people who are not interested in politics at all, I know there's a lot of you who watch this network. And of course, we have a big progressive audience as well and a big liberal audience, but we have lots of people because this network isn't about politics. It's really about people, about fighting for the people first and foremost. That's where we center our network and our movement above everything else. And so you can hear it from the words. If you're like, well, Ben, you're hear it from the words of Marjorie Taylor Greene, the lead MAGA general. Here, play this clip.
I got a Truth Social dropped on my head like a nuclear bomb where the president called me a traitor. And I read that and I thought, a traitor? Oh my gosh. I looked up the definition of traitor. I looked it up. I was like, I have to wrap my head around this. And so a traitor is a traitor to the United States of America. And I swore an oath to defend our Constitution. And I really thought about it. I said, he's not talking about what we think of the definition of traitor. He's saying I was a traitor to him. To him. And that's why I was a traitor to him. And that's why he was going to support a primary against me, just like he's doing to Thomas Massie, which is horrific. And I looked at that and I thought to myself, this is a badge of honor. It truly is. And I thought, this is so unbelievable to me. But here's what happened after that. Not a single Republican defended me. Not one that I served with. By the way, I had paid all my dues to the NRCC every Congress and supported all of them and endorsed many of them and donated money to them and helped them get reelected. And I had spent millions of my own dollars campaigning all over the country for President Trump. Think about that. But I was a traitor doing what we promised to do. I was the traitor. But no one defended me, not one person. And I said, oh my goodness. How can I continue to serve under this president and serve in a body of Congress where not a single person is willing to say, Mr. President, Marjorie's not a traitor. She helped you get elected. But then guess what happened? I started getting death threats, and it was about me being called a traitor. It was, you're a traitor. You deserve to die. You're a traitor. We're going to kill you. You're a traitor. But it was the one that came in and they kept coming on my son, my youngest, my baby boy. We're going to snuff out his life. We're going to put a bullet in his head. Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I sent those to the president, texted him directly. I also sent them to Susie Wiles and James Blair. And I also sent them to the Vice President, J.D. Vance, Kash Patel. I sent them to all these people. I got no response from Susie Wiles. None. And she's a mother and a grandmother and a woman. I got no response from James Blair because he only cares about making money on campaigns. I did hear from Kash Patel. He said on it, but I haven't heard from him since. I don't know what he's on. J.D. Vance was very nice to me, compassionate and kind, and reassured me that he would do everything we could to find out what's going on. And then I heard back from Donald Trump. And I've saved these text messages. I'd probably get put in jail if I released them publicly, but I saved them. Where Donald Trump proceeded to tell me that it was my fault and that I deserve it. If my son gets killed, I deserve it because I was a traitor to him. That is our president of the United States. That's the man that says MAGA is whatever he wants it to be.
Wow, and as I mentioned at the outset of the video, some of those Marjorie Taylor Greene posts where she calls out people being brainwashed by a MAGA cult. Here's what she writes. She goes, "Facts don't care about your feelings. Open your eyes and leave the cult." And then she shows, here are the ways you know you're stuck in a MAGA cult. And then she reposted this from another very far right-wing aligned account, the Zero Hedge account. "Exiled MAGA dissidents consult with Ron Paul on the Iran war." In other words, you have all of these former MAGA people. They're really growing their own anti-MAGA movement right now, and it's happening in Texas. There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers, and thank you all so much for watching.
The cult framing is what makes MTG's April 25 speech historically important, because when a former true believer of any movement, political, religious, ideological, describes their former movement as a cult, they are doing something specific. They are not engaging in partisan rhetoric. They are not playing political theater. They are speaking from the inside out. They are describing the lived experience of being inside a system where dissent was punished, where the leader's word was treated as gospel, where truth itself was negotiable, where the rules applied to outsiders but not to the leader, where members were taught to distrust everyone outside the group, where leaving was treated as the worst possible betrayal, and where the leader's family and inner circle were protected at the expense of rank-and-file members. MTG lived that. She watched it happen to her. She watched it happen to Joe Kent. She watched it happen to Tucker Carlson. She watched it happen to herself when she pushed for the Epstein files. And on April 25th, she told the people still inside the cult that the only path forward is to open their eyes and walk out. That message, "Open your eyes and leave the cult," is not just political rhetoric. It is the most consequential thing any former senior MAGA voice has said publicly in 2026. And it lands harder because it comes from a person who genuinely loved Donald Trump, who gave him her career, who defended him for 6 years, who lost her seat over him, and whose own son was put in danger by his rhetoric. When MTG says MAGA is dead, conservative voters who have been quietly disillusioned for months hear it differently than they hear it from any Democrat or independent. Because she was them. She is them. And she is telling them that the man at the top is not who they thought he was. I want to take one more break here, because if you have made it this far, please subscribe to America Facticity, hit the bell, join our $9 membership. Share this video with one person who needs to see what MTG is saying. The corporate networks are bending. The FCC is closing in. Independent journalism is the only thing left telling the full story. Now let me close this out with everything else happening this week. The King Charles state visit ended a week ago Wednesday. The King reminded the President of the United States in his own state dinner toast that the British burned down the White House in 1814. Trump fabricated a chronologically impossible story about his mother having a crush on the king who is younger than him. Trump bumped into the king during the troop review. Trump cut in front of Queen Camilla to shake hands with his cabinet. The cabinet of the United States is now living on military bases. Trump told Norah O'Donnell on 60 Minutes, direct quote, "Some of the housing on the military bases is very nice. I'm not sure they do it necessarily for violence, but probably it's not the worst thing in the world." It's not the worst thing in the world about his own cabinet living on military bases because of credible death threats. The Cole Allen WHCD shooting case is being prosecuted under a federal magistrate's Brady Minute order warning the Trump DOJ. The defense has won an emergency motion correcting Sixth Amendment violations. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche admitted on camera Sunday that, direct quote, even though it's still not clear if Allen hit the Secret Service officer, it does appear Allen fired his shotgun. Government leaks then directly contradicted Blanche. Jimmy Kimmel on Wednesday called Trump Fat John Wick and said he looks like Rambo and Dumbo at the same time. Trump on Newsmax demanded ABC fire Kimmel. The FCC under Brendan Carr ordered Disney into early renewal review of all 8 ABC station licenses. Stephen Colbert's Late Show ends May 21st, 3 weeks from today. Jeff Duncan, the former Republican lieutenant governor of Georgia, is running for governor as a Democrat in 2026 and called Donald Trump in his announcement video, direct quote sourced through CBS News Atlanta, what Georgia Republicans threw out of their party. The Georgia Democratic primary is May 19th. The federal government processed a court-ordered $166 billion refund to over 330,000 American importers because the Supreme Court struck down Trump's tariffs as unconstitutional. Walmart is owed $10.2 billion. Target is owed $2.2 billion. Nike is owed $1 billion. American farm bankruptcies are at the highest pace in over a decade. American gas prices spiked more in March than any single month since 1967. Inflation is at 3.5%, and 14,000 Spirit Airlines workers, as of yesterday morning, no longer have jobs. Every single one of these threads is the same story. The MAGA movement, as Marjorie Taylor Greene declared on April 25th in Lake Jackson, Texas, is dead. The thing the country thought it was electing, an America First movement focused on working-class economic populism, on ending forever wars, on draining the swamp, on protecting parents and families, has been replaced by something else entirely. Something where 14,000 American workers lose their jobs because Trump's foreign policy collapsed an airline. Something where the cabinet lives on military bases because of death threats. Something where the FCC is weaponized against critical comedians. Something where the Justice Department is used as legal leverage in real estate disputes. Something where the President of the United States, when a member of his own party reports death threats against her son, tells her she deserved it. Something where former believers, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the Tucker Carlsons, the Joe Kents, the Candace Owenses, the Alex Joneses, are publicly walking out of the movement they helped build and warning the people still inside that they are in a cult. That is the picture. That is the reality. That is what is happening to the country in the first week of May 2026. And the only people willing to tell you the whole, multi-source, fully documented version of this story are the independent voices that the corporate networks cannot fully muzzle, that the FCC cannot fully threaten, that the Trump administration cannot fully silence. We are the ones still here. We are the ones still doing this work. Every single video, every single day, connecting every dot, sourcing every quote, telling the truth. Before I let you go, please, one more time, subscribe to America Facticity if you have not already. Hit the bell. Join our membership for $9 a month. That $9 is what keeps independent journalism alive at exactly the moment when independent journalism is under attack. Share this video with one person who needs to see what MTG is saying about MAGA being a cult. One person, one conversation, one $9 membership. Comment below with your reaction. Was it MTG calling MAGA dead at the Ron Paul Institute? Was it her telling former believers to open your eyes and leave the cult? Was it her testimony that Trump told her she deserved it when her son's life was threatened? Was it the Epstein files cover-up? Was it the central bank digital currency reversal? Was it Spirit Airlines collapsing yesterday? Was it Trump telling 14,000 workers we have to come first before they lost their jobs? Was it Trump's approval rating hitting 34%? Was it the FCC threatening Disney's broadcast licenses? Was it Stephen Colbert's Late Show ending May 21? Tell me, I read every single comment, and every comment helps this video reach more people who deserve to know what is really happening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of America Facticity. Thank you for paying attention when paying attention is so much harder than looking away. Thank you for funding the journalism that the corporate networks will not fund. Thank you for being the reason independent voices like ours can keep speaking the truth. Stay safe, stay informed, stay vigilant. I will see you in the next one.